one of my favorite weekends that we do all year long, because this is the weekend, this is the Sunday that we talk about missions. We talk about missions here in our local context, our partners all across the world, and we get to meet a lot of them. A lot of them come in and they get to hang out with us, and we get to know them. So we're going to do a special study today just on missions and why we do it, why our church cares, why you should care, and why you can join in as a part of that. So here's where we want to start. Most Christians embrace the call to serve God, to love Him, to love His church, but a very small percent of Christians actually embrace the call to be a witness of Christ. We're actually told by a lot of surveys that only 1 out of 10 Christians actually will share their faith in their lifetime. In their lifetime. And that's where it's crazy that we can obey God in everything else, but not whenever it comes to sharing our faith. So what I want to do is I want to walk through a series of verses, and then we're going to have some discussion questions and kind of break it in between. So I'm going to do verse, discussion, question. You'll pause the video. You'll discuss these questions. Then you'll have another set of verses and more discussion questions. So let's talk about why it is that we go. Why do we go? Why do we go to the world and tell them about Jesus? Well, if you look in John 20:21, it says this: Jesus said to them, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, even so I am sending you." Many Christians don't understand this verse. They're waiting on God to send them. They're waiting on God to say, hey, here's a big neon sign, I'm telling you to go. But notice what it says here is that just as Jesus was sent, so He sent His disciples, and that was 2,000 years ago. So here's what I want you to understand. Jesus has sent you in the past tense. He's not waiting to tell you some kind of specific detail or anything. He's not waiting on you to figure out even that you've been sent. You have been sent by Jesus. So the question we need to ask is not, are we sent? It's, why were we sent? Where should we go? If we know why and where we should go, then we should know, okay, maybe when we should go. And these are the 3 questions we're going to discuss. The truth is that Jesus has sent you. Matthew 28:19, we often translate it as "go therefore," but that's actually not the most accurate translation from the Greek. In the original language, what Jesus is actually saying is, since you have gone, or having gone. So it's this expectation from Jesus that you have actually already had a lifestyle of being a witness. When He says that, though, He says this is what you're supposed to do, and that's make disciples, baptize them, right? Train them up, and so that they know the knowledge of Christ and how to obey the Holy Spirit's prompting. And you're supposed to do that everywhere that you go. So this is kind of what the Holy Spirit, or what Jesus is saying. It's since you have gone, there's this expectation that you should be a witness wherever you go. All right, so those discussion questions. It's really weird that God would have actually sent us as He sent Jesus. But this is a true thing. So just in the same way, just as there was no question for Jesus as to if He was sent, it was a question for Him as to where He was sent. So think back over Jesus' ministry. If you've read it, maybe you've watched a movie on it or something like that. Jesus never once questioned if He was sent, because He knew He was. He knew He had an intention. He knew that God had a specific purpose upon His life. Do you know that that's the same thing for you? Because if Jesus is saying, just as God sent me, so I am sending you, this is the truth, that you are sent with specific purpose and intent. So the question shouldn't be if you go. The question should be where you go. Now, Jesus gave us very specific kind of ideas even as to where we should go. In Acts 1:8, He said this: "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." So Jesus gives us 4 locations: Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Okay, now let's put this in our context so we understand. Because When Jesus says this, guess where they're all at? They're in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the city in the region of Judea. Judea, next door, is Samaria. Okay, and so you've got Jerusalem, Judea, and then next door, Samaria, and then obviously the ends of the earth is everywhere else. So let's put this in our context. It'd be like saying Fruit Cove, Florida, Georgia, and then the rest of the world. So where do you start being a witness? You start being a witness in your hometown, because here's the thing. You need to develop this lifestyle at home. It's kind of easy in some ways to go across the world to people you've never met, to people that you'll probably never even see again, and share your faith, versus coming home and with that kid that you ride bikes with to school every day, talking to him, talking to her on a daily basis about your faith, inviting them to church, because then you're putting yourself out there. And as someone who kind of knows, okay, does this person really believe Jesus or not? And so it gets kind of scary because we're afraid, what if this person rejects me or something like that? Now, Jesus wants you to witness as a church in all 4 of these locations. It's really interesting because there's a conjunction, the word and it's between each location. So it's Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the ends of the earth. So this means that a church is supposed to be in all 4 locations simultaneously. Now this is impossible for one individual to do, okay? It can't be done. But as a church, it can be done. Where, maybe I go to one location, you go to another location, your teacher, they go to another location. And as a church, we go to all locations. So again, your question is not if I go, your question is, okay, Lord, where are you sending me? One of my favorite things that we did this past year is that we scholarshiped every single trip in 2021 to the same amount. So all of our summer trips were the same cost. And so now families aren't asking the question, okay, should I go to this place? Well, that place is more expensive. Maybe we should go to the cheaper place. Now, because of the same cost, now we have this question, okay, Jesus, where specifically should I go for your glory? That question should always, always, always be on the front of our minds. And you should be thinking, okay, how can I be a witness in Fruit Cove, to my neighbors, to my school? If God has sent you to your school, He has made you the witness at that school. You should be thinking like this, okay, if I'm going to go to Fruit Cove, then maybe others will go to Florida, the rest of Florida as witness. If I go to Florida, then others will go to Fruit Cove and maybe Georgia. And maybe others will even go to the ends of the earth. But here, let me give you this last thought. Jesus says go to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Now, He could have said and Syria or Perea or any of these other areas, but instead He said Samaria. Why would He choose Samaria? Because all these other areas are next to Judea. Instead, He chose Samaria because the Jews didn't like the Samaritans. The Samaritans were difficult to get along with. The Samaritans had trouble with the Jews. So what Jesus is not just saying is go to all these places simultaneously. He's saying go to the hard places. Go to the places where it might be difficult to share the gospel. Go to the people who might make fun of you, or the people that you might lose some of your popularity because you decided to go to this person with the gospel. We think of Christians as people who are like us. But this is the beauty of the gospel. Jesus died for people who were not like us. Jesus died for people who are very different. They look different. They talk different. They have different colored skin than us. But everywhere that God has sent us, He sent us to those people, cross-culturally, cross-language barriers. And so I'm asking you to consider this. Where or to whom has God sent you? Because the truth is, He says, start at home and then expand from there. Where is it that God is sending you? Okay, so if we know that it's not a matter of if we should go, but it's where we should go, right? And it's a matter of why we should go. The last question that we should ask is when. When do we go? Well, the obvious answer is now. Jesus says, all right, I have sent you. So again, that implies that if you're not being a witness now, then you're actually living in disobedience to what Jesus has said. The implication is that Jesus expects you to be on mission. And if you're not on mission, then you're actually in disobedience of this expectation that Jesus has for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go to Africa or something like that. Now, God could call you to Africa, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what it really means is that wherever you go, you're to be that witness. If God has called you to be on a soccer team, then God has sent you to that soccer team to be a witness. If God has called you to be on a dance company, then God has called you to be a witness to that dance company. This means that you need to be currently, daily, living your life on mission. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of why we should do it, where we should do it, and when we should do it. When we should do it is now. We should do it exactly now. So, maybe this is the first time you've ever heard this. Maybe you've been coasting through your Christian life and now you're at this new point and you're like, wow, I've never even thought about this. I've never even considered this. That's great. Begin to ask the question, okay, Jesus, I know why I should go and I know where should I go. Maybe the where should be Fruit Cove Middle or Swiss Point Middle or Liberty Pines Academy, wherever you go. But now you need to say, okay, Jesus, help me. Help me to start now, to start today, to start tomorrow when I go to school. Maybe some of you guys have heard this for a while, but you've just never done it, and you're beginning to feel the conviction of the Holy Spirit, like, hey, you need to be a witness. Listen, that's great, because maturity, spiritual maturity, is being aware of what the Holy Spirit is guiding you to do, and then doing it, and then living in obedience. So the win is always to go. However, there's more to it. Remember, it's Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the ends of the earth is simultaneous. What if God might call you somewhere else? Now, this is the question that a lot of Christians don't want to ask, because Jesus could legitimately ask you to pick up, leave your family, leave your home, and go. Now, that could be temporarily, especially if you're in middle school, but when you become an adult, that could be permanent. And we don't want to ask Jesus this question, because here's the thing, he might genuinely send us to Africa. He might genuinely send us around the world. And you know what? That's okay, because we're going to trust him to get us there. But in the meantime, for middle school, you guys need to be asking, okay, when should I go? And the when and the where. You know, in a little bit, you guys are going to have some discussion questions. But those discussion questions are going to go through some of the locations where we're actually going to be sending groups. Listen to what 1 Chronicles 16:23-26 says. It says, sing to the Lord, all the earth. Tell of his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the nations. His marvelous works among all the peoples. Everywhere you find a person, tell them about the marvelous works of God. For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised, and he is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the peoples are worthless idols, but the Lord made the heavens. You know, many places in the world, and maybe even across your street, there are people who are pursuing after worthless, powerless gods. God is sending you now to those places. What could some of those places be? Listen, we don't know where the Lord is sending you. It's our job as the church to help you get there. Some of the options that we have for you, we have, I'm sending a group to Denver. In the spring, we're going to be going to Alpharetta, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. These are all opportunities. Your teacher, in your discussion time, is actually going to tell you about some more of these opportunities. And what I want to encourage you to begin to pray about, okay, Jesus, I know why I should go. I know it's to declare your glory. I know it's because of your goodness. Jesus, I know that it's not a matter of if, it's where I should go. Jesus, where is it that you want me to go? And lastly, when? When should I go? You should go when Jesus tells you to go. Because it's a matter of being sensitive to the Holy Spirit and responding to his goodness and responding in obedience. Hey, this has been Move 2021. You've got some more discussion questions and prayer time, but it's been awesome to walk through this experience with you today.